Hello everyone! Thank you for tuning in to the Wasabi Aquarium channel. Today, we will go through the tips on how to properly trim your water plants, and we will especially focus on stem plants in this video. We've done several videos in the past on how to trim your water plants, focusing on individual types of plants. But in this video, we will show you how to trim your water plants while looking at the overall design of your aquarium. The techniques we will introduce today should be helpful and be easy to implement from today. So, if any of you are looking for ways to make your aquarium look better, or would like advice on how to properly trim your plants, or have had a bad experience trimming your water plants in the past, this video should be helpful and very easy to understand. So today, we'll be using this actual 120 centimeter aquarium to demonstrate the proper trimming methods. As some of you may notice, there are various parts that need maintenance in this aquarium, so we'll go through them in order. There are three main points to keep in mind when trimming while considering the overall design. The first point is to shorten the height of the stem plants. The second is to align the height. And the third point is to trim the water plants that have grown in different directions and are sticking out. Today, we will actually demonstrate these 3 points by trimming the stemmed water plants inside this aquarium. So before we proceed, let's take a look at the overall layout of this 120 centimeter aquarium. I think you'll immediately notice that the stem plants have overgrown pretty heavily, so it's a pretty good time to trim all of these. You can also see that a lot of these Microsorum and Bolbitis have also grown pretty heavily and definitely need some trimming. But for the sake of this video, and in order to keep the length of this video right, we will only pick up and trim the stem plants for now. We will try to create a separate video either as a sequel to this one or a completely separate series on how to trim each type of plant, such as the Microsorum or moss that can be seen in this aquarium. So please stay tuned and make sure to subscribe to the Wasabi Aquarium channel. So now let's go ahead and start trimming, and I'll explain the first step we mentioned earlier of shortening the overall height. These over here are Rotala rotundifolia, and as you can see, they are about to touch the surface of the water, so they definitely need some trimming. So let's start trimming the areas over here. In terms of the proper methods of trimming water plants, we've gone through this in detail in some of our previous videos, but the key is to be generous and cut without hesitation. It's important to start trimming from the front in order to gradually increase the height as we go towards the back. I often hear people who are a bit reluctant to go in and trim a large amount, but cutting a lot is visually definitely better than leaving the plants a bit too long. Stem plants especially grow steadily if you practice the correct maintenance procedures such as liquid fertilizers and water change, so there's no need to worry even if you feel like you trimmed your plants a bit too much. Another reason to be generous when trimming your water plants is that when they are too long, they block the flow of the water inside your aquarium, and this can lead to unnecessary algae appearing. So it's important to constantly trim your plants to keep a healthy flow of water inside your tank. And also, for the plants that have grown to the surface, they can also attract bits and pieces of fish food or other dirt, which also eventually leads to excess algae. We saw some spirogyra form in this aquarium as well, which was caused by growing out the plants for a bit too long. So I would strongly recommend maintaining a pretty short height for the water plants. One important tip I would recommend following is to not trim all of your plants at once. We saw that a majority of the plants have grown out and need some trimming overall, and you often just want to trim everything at once and get it over with. However, if you cut all of your plants at once, the amount of absorbable nutrients decreases significantly, and decreasing the stem plants also decreases the amount of dirt they absorb, which can potentially lead to a large amount of algae forming inside your tank. So I would trim the water plants over several stages to maintain a consistent, healthy environment. So today we're going to only trim half of the plants inside the aquarium. So in terms of the height, the water should now be able to flow freely, and the height also looks fine. So I think the first point is complete. Now let's move on to point 2, aligning the height of the stem plants. If you take a look at the batch of water plants over here, ideally you would want these to be shortest at the front and be taller as you move towards the back, but you can see that the plants in the front row are overshadowing the ones behind them. There are also long ones and short ones here and there, so we're going to align the overall height of these plants. Unlike the Rotala rotundifolia, we are going to trim each specific plant that is not aligned with the others, so we will be a bit more careful than how we trim the plants in point 1, and the amount that we will be trimming will be a lot less too. We're going to carefully create a beautiful bush, so it might be wise to maintain this area at a consistent pace. So now let's start trimming this area too. Just like the other areas, this bush should also be higher at the back and should gradually increase in height, but we can see that the front row is overshadowing the others, so let's start by trimming this front end over here. There's also some unequal areas at the back, so we're going to align the height of the bush overall. A good way to trim these is to flick your hand like this and trim the plants at the front tip of the scissors rather than the deep end. This gives more room for the plants to start growing freely again, and the bushes will grow more naturally and beautifully. This actually is a pretty good way to trim the plants, as trimming them lightly allows the plants to look more natural even after they start growing again. If you cut them too deeply, on the other hand, it makes the plants look very obvious that they were cut or trimmed with scissors and does not look natural. So trimming them lightly is a good way to align the height of your plants and maintain a natural, clean look at the same time. Now let's move on to the final point of trimming the loose ends of the water plants. This point can be explained best by demonstration, so let's take a look over here. As you can see, there's an area of Rotala green and a batch of Hygrophila polysperma on the right, but actually the initial design was to have the Hygrophila polysperma here and the Rotala green over here. However, as you know, Rotala green have a tendency to grow sideways and expand their territory, and have outgrown their initial areas quite a bit. Stem plants look much better when there's a clear separation between each type of plant, so we're going to go ahead and remove the remaining ends. Regarding situations like these, trimming this won't actually solve this as they will just start growing again, so we're going to pull these out from the root. Stem plants inevitably have the tendency of expanding their roots beyond where you initially planted them, and they mix in with the other plants as well, so trimming them doesn't solve this as the roots have already expanded inside the soil. So it's important to take some time out every now and then to pull them out from the root in order to prevent them from happening again. Additionally, the Rotala green are pretty inconsistent in height, so we're also going to trim them to align the height as we discussed in point 2. This also brings out the beauty of the dwarf Rotala at the back. Also, if you look closely, the Hygrophila polysperma are a bit all over the place, so let's pull some of these out as well. The plants are growing into each other's territories, and we're not able to bring out the design aspect of the layout, so we can be pretty generous over here as well. We're also going to trim a bit of the dwarf Rotala here as well. It does make you want to continue trimming to the other side all at once, but there is a danger of causing excess algae to appear like we mentioned before, so we'll trim the rest at another time. We'll also pull out some of the dwarf Rotala that have entered the back end. Trimming the plants while keeping each section in mind would also be a good idea, as it will bring out the beauty of each plant and design. So this is the first round of trimming, but how does it look? I believe there is a much tidier, clean impression after trimming. If you keep the 3 points that we discussed today in mind, it'll definitely make a difference in the final visual of your aquarium after you finish trimming your plants. So I hope you found today's video helpful. We went through in detail how to properly trim your water plants and the 3 main points to keep in mind while doing so. For additional specific trimming methods, our previous videos will definitely be of help, so I'll leave links in the description below. Please have a look when you have the time. There are people who advise to let the plants grow out to their natural abilities in order to fully display their natural beauty, but I personally believe that trimming them brings out the beauty of the plants even more, and leaving them for too long can overshadow the uniqueness and differences of each plant. For example, Japanese traditional gardens are as beautiful as they are because they are trimmed regularly by elite gardeners and not because they are grown out. The same can be said for bonsai plants, as they are both beautiful and valuable because they are maintained by high-level artisan gardeners. Thus, it is reasonable to say that water plants can maintain their beauty only through consistent trimming. We will also leave links to the scissors and other equipment as well as the various water plants that came up in the video today, so please take a look at the description below if you are interested. If you have any additional questions or comments regarding any of the content that we discussed today, please feel free to write them in the comment section below. Although we may not be able to answer each question individually, we will create additional content based on the popular questions we receive. If you found today's video helpful, please leave a comment, like, and make sure to subscribe to the Wasabi Aquarium channel. We will continue to create helpful content for aquarium lovers, so your continuous support would be very much appreciated. That's it for today. Thank you.